Oh my goodness, I've been working all morning, helping my brother kind of put some painting the side of the house and spraying it and that kind of thing, and putting stain out on the side of the house because he has a wooden, for kind of a rustic looking home. So that's what I've been doing. So I'm a little bit exhausted, and uh, let's see, trying to get my thoughts together here. Anyway, so this is the Midday with Cassandra Williamson, and we've got a few things to talk about. Israel yesterday attacked Iran, which was not unexpected because we know that Israel is definitely wanting to make sure that Iran does not have nuclear weapons and does not have the capability of using them. We don't want that either here in the United States because we know that Iran is a destabilizing force in the Middle East. All you have to do is look at all the proxy armies and threats around the region that Iran supports. Yemen, the Houthis in Yemen, oh my goodness, Hamas, geez, you name it, they're all over the place, supporting all of these proxy armies whose stated goal is the complete destruction of the state of Israel. And I'll tell you right now that Israel has every right in the world to go after this and stop it preemptively because Iran was so close to getting what they wanted. They're pulling a Russian tactic. The Russians have a tendency to kind of play this game with diplomacy, in the midst of which they are constantly attacking and constantly reassessing and still moving forward militarily. Iran is doing the same kind of thing with President Trump, conversation after conversation, yet still building up their ability to produce fissile uranium for nuclear weapons. So they weren't stopping any of it. They weren't slowing down on anything. If anything, they were accelerating it while the talks were going on. But apparently that's the way diplomacy kind of works, huh? Right? Yeah, we did that too. I mean, we did it in Vietnam. We talked to the North Koreans in France while we were in the process of preparing to bomb the daylights out of them. But they did it too, because during those talks, they were staging all their people in the northern part, along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So, yeah, I mean, come on, folks. That's the way this stuff works, right? But Israel has every right in the world to take out nuclear facilities and command structures in Iran. Iran is a theocratic fascist state, period. Its stated goal is the destruction of Israel and concurrently destruction of the U.S. So Israel, being the one in the region that's closest to with the greatest threat against them, with a 2 or 3 millennium of hatred towards Israel and Hebrew people from Muslims, or at least that part of the Abrahamic family, because the Muslims haven't been around all that long. So it's the hatred toward Israel has just been there for 3,000 years. Has been there for 3,000 years. And they have stood strong through all of it as much as possible. They were run over, put in enslavement, all this kind of stuff, got free, had no country, got a country, formed a nation, started over again, doing all kinds of stuff. So Israel has every right to defend itself from Iran and its proxy armies. Those proxy armies are all terrorist organizations. The Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, all of them, and any others in the region that they're funding. In Iran, in Iraq, in Syria, you'll find the handprint of Iran and the Ayatollah throughout the whole region. And it's an existential threat, constant, clear and present danger to Israel every day. So they have every right to go into Iran and attempt to destroy everything they can get their hands on. It has to do with producing nuclear weapons, including the command structure. I'm surprised they haven't taken out Ayatollah Khomeini. They should have. That's my opinion. They should have gone right straight for the whole top of this thing and destroyed the whole thing down to the bottom. Why? Because they are creating Iran creates chaos around the world. But the challenge is for the United States and Israel is that because of what's going on in Ukraine and Russia having to turn to Iran for drones and drone manufacturing and support, that Russia and Iran have now become more closely aligned. China and Iran are now more closely aligned. North Korea and Iran are now more closely aligned. So the challenge is going to be to keep those other three, the terrible three, out of this Middle East conflict. And Turkey is obviously over there too. So Turkey's kind of torn, even though they're part of the EU and they're part of NATO. And here they are. They actually support Iran's attacks against Israel. Well, okay then. We have a big mess over there in the Middle East. But then again, we've got a bunch of far right people here in this country who actually are looking forward to that. They're actually going around going, you know, it's the end times for sure. Book of Revelations is about to be fulfilled, and I'm not going to stand in the way of that. And, you know, yeah, I kind of encourage it along, they say. Yeah, they're not going to get in the way of that. There's no way. I mean, it just fits the narrative, the story that they want to put out there, right? So here we go. Trump's parade. Oh my gosh. I've talked about this and talked about this and talked about this, and it gets to be just so rote, and it's just kind of crazy. I don't even know where to go with this other than boycott the parade, boycott the thing. No one show up. Leave it alone. There's a drawback to that. The drawback is if it's the media that walks away and doesn't show some of this stuff in a detailed way, then the right media, the media on the right side, is going to take it as more ammunition to go after the left. Because, you know, they didn't kind of give respect to the president on his birthday or the army on their 205th. They're going to go after it as from this perspective. If the media on the left does not show up, they're going to say it further shows that the left is not interested in the United States or its military, especially since it's the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army and the 248th anniversary of Flag Day. So you can bet that if you don't show up, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, and all that bunch there, if you don't show up and make an effort to make this a big production, they will use that against you. And then it will be saying you're not interested in this country, you're not interested in the military in this country, and you better show up for it. It will be used against you like, oh my gosh, that's all I've got to say about it. You might not want to be there. Now, I get it. I get that. I understand it completely, but I can tell you it'll be used against you. If I were in D.C., I would be there. If I could get to D.C., but I've got my responsibilities here with the family in Eastern Kentucky. But if I could get there, I would be there in D.C. as a peaceful protester who would want to do this. That's what I would really like to do, to suck the air out of this whole thing and take this whole thing away from the news cycle, away from Trump and away from his boasting, his ego stroking behavior. Because that's what this is, folks. It's nothing more than that. We don't do this kind of thing as a country. The only thing missing from this would be the missile trucks like the old Soviet Union had going down the street, where they were showing their missiles at a 30 or 35 degree angle or so as they're going down the streets in the city in Moscow, you know, or going through Beijing with those parades, or North Korea. It seems like all these strong men have got to show that they're in control of their militaries, right? That's what it feels like to me. That's what it looks like to the world. We don't do it, but Trump does. Right. That's not who we are, folks. I don't care if it is his birthday. It's one thing to say that, hey, I'm going to have a parade on my birthday if it's for the 250th anniversary of the United States Army. Yeah, and I get that. I get it. The Army definitely deserves a celebration for its 250th birthday. Absolutely. The U.S. Army does. No question of it. None whatsoever. Happy 250th birthday to the Army. And it's the really hard thing for me to say it this way, but I can say on that day, tomorrow, Saturday, the 14th of June, you're going to hear me say something that I do not like to say ever. But I'll do a little special thing tomorrow and I'll show you what it is. But this is going to be, it makes me almost cry that I have to say this. But I'm going to out of respect for the Army and their birthday. But you'll have to come back tomorrow around, let's say, 6-ish. Yeah. Parade starts at 6:30, 6 Eastern time, and hear what I have to say about that. Because, you know, this is going to be a hard one to do. I'll have to try to pull it out, get a rope to pull this phrase out of my mouth, okay? And those of you who are my classmates know who I am. You know how difficult that is for those of us who, well, I'm not going to elaborate anymore. It'll just give it away. I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. No. But anyway, if I could get to DC, that image that's on your screen right now, that democracy advocate standing down there in front of that row of tanks, standing in opposition to the strong man who was running China at that time, 1989, I think it was, something like that, Tiananmen Square. Yeah, China did crush this group. They did crush them and put them in jail and executed a bunch of them too, if I'm not mistaken, for protesting their authoritarian rule, their communist authoritarianism. Yeah, they sure did. And that guy didn't accomplish absolutely nothing except for internationally taking the steam, taking the whole show away from China, the leadership of China, and putting it on the pro-democracy people there in that country. And that's the way I feel that we have to stand up against what's going on in the Trump administration. This is it's an authoritarianism that comes from a long line of being in business for himself. And I know about that. I mean, I've been in business for myself too. I know. I've been in lots of business, multiple industries over many years. Okay. And it's very authoritarian. You create this thing, you have your hand on it, it's got your name on it, and you go out there and you go, hey, look, that's not what I want right there. We're going to change that up. And, do you mind doing it a different way? You kind of, it's yours and you have that responsibility. You can do with that however you want. And that's where Trump comes from. He comes to it honestly from his background in business. He feels entitled to be in this position of leadership in this country because he's been successful in business and he wants to use that acumen and put it over into operating the country. But the country is a constitutional republic and not a corporation set up like one of Trump's businesses or the university that failed or whatever, a number of other things. I mean, this is not that, but that's who Trump is. Okay. So there's that authoritarianism is there. And he knows that too. He's a boss of bosses. Okay. He that's just who he is. It comes to it from that place. And, that's no excuse or anything like that, but it explains who he is. And then if you go back to the hereditarianism that some other people are talking about over on X, hereditarianism, which is just a fancy way of saying social Darwinism. Basically, it just says, I'm successful. I've been successful for a long time in this business world. And therefore, I'm entitled to be even more successful and keep pulling everybody else under my fold, and they all work for me. And that's what we're seeing in Trump's second term. People who are running the different parts of this administration, know that they owe it all to Trump, and they brown nose him like crazy. They pump him up. They feed his ego every day, every day. In any cabinet meeting or any foreign engagement, all the foreign leaders know that if you want to get something accomplished with President Trump, you have to do something that kind of plays to his sense of identity, the Gilded Age identity, the golden identity, the sparkly stuff, shiny things that are almost royalty like. I mean, that's what the jet was from Qatar, right? That jet was given from the royal family. It was the royal family's jet, and Trump just could not resist that because it was from the royal family. That's it. It's as simple as that. He who has the money and the power and the gold and the diamonds and the glitz will be Trump's friend day in and day out. And especially if you've got 100 times more money than he does, Elon. So anyway, that's what we're seeing. But the parade, though, there's a chance of rain. And I just read a report that the rain or shine, they're going to do it, like the post office. Rain or shine, it gets delivered. Well, all right. Thunder and lightning, well, who cares? We have those tanks with their phallic symbol sticking up in the air. And sure, go ahead. Go right ahead. Yep. Make sure you get those things grounded real well. Oh my gosh. So anyway, come back this evening at 6. I'll do a little bit more into this kind of thing. I'll talk more about it, and I'll let you know more about what's going on in Israel and Iran, and that the Houthis are attacking Israel, and Israel's going to go back after them too. No doubt about it. They may have already done that. I don't know, but it's a very unstable place over there right now. But Israel is in the right. Trump's in the wrong.